Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Leading Through Recovery session. I'm Kat Ward, and I, along with our featured speakers today, am so happy to be here with you. Now, even before this extraordinary year, we knew that our economy was not working for everyone. But with this last year, this last 15 months, and all that they have brought, we've really seen the magnifying of economic inequality that we're facing as a nation. It's all revealing its true depth and its true breadth. And as we begin to navigate our recovery, there's never been a more important time for corporate leaders to examine where we've been, what we're learning, and what we must go to, especially since recovery is going to look different for everyone. It's going to look different for every industry, whether you're an essential versus non essential worker, whether you're in hospitality or travel, or perhaps in the transportation distribution industry. Every company is going to have a different experience, and every individual worker is going to have a different experience. Corporate leaders have a vital role to play in helping to create a more just, equitable, and inclusive economic recovery through the actions that they take to support their people. Who do they hire? Who do they promote? How do they compensate? How do they support their people? Now is the time to focus in on deeply infusing a lens of equity and economic advancement to the answers to these questions. So in just a moment, we're going to hear from several bold corporate leaders who are embracing the impact potential of their role through this recovery. And I'm also excited later on to introduce you to a new resource that we've created that's launching today, our Recovery Playbook. It's a resource for employers that was built in collaboration with over 40 business leaders in this past year. It's a guide to help all companies reimagine talent strategy through this period of recovery and return. We can't wait to tell you more about this first of its kind tool. But first, I am so honored to introduce you to a leader who is making such an important impact at Salesforce, and by extension, the broader community, Brent Hyder. Brent is President and Chief People Officer at Salesforce, and he'll share some words about Salesforce's journey through this past year, through this moment, and he'll talk about why an investment in equity, opportunity, and mobility matters now more than ever.
What a difference a year makes, for sure, for me, many of you as well. But if I just think back about 14 months ago, when here at Salesforce, anyways, we all ran back to our homes and hunkered down for something that was coming at us called COVID. I never could imagine what my next year would look like, and many of yours. I'd like to just recognize real quickly that the recovery is, it's uneven. It's not happening the same everywhere, and so the comments that I might make might be my own experience, and I know that you'll take that adaptation for your own and realize I'm aware that it's just not even everywhere. But when I think about some of the things that certainly we've learned here and what I've learned personally, first off is I can't wait to get back to an office because I miss people a lot. But I want to make sure that I do that safely. And I never really thought when I thought about a career in human resources that I was going to end up being over safety and well-being and health, things that I really honestly 7, 8 years ago, maybe even a year ago, didn't really consider as much as I should have. Where today, my entire role has been around the wellness of our teams and what we're doing and how we're going to work through it. And there's been an enormous amount of learning for me and our organization. One is that a crisis like this doesn't impact everyone the same. And it just doesn't. There are communities in our country that are impacted much more than others. And a strategy can't be focused on just the majority. That we have to look at different pockets around our own company and our own country on how are we going to actually take advantage of this. And while I'll certainly recognize a lot of the pain and the suffering that's happened, at the same time, what I'll say is this is an amazing opportunity for us to step up and do something different. And that's where the way that we're looking at it at Salesforce right now.
I have two more quick focus questions for you.
Got it.
One is I want you, Salesforce and a number of other companies have made a lot of investments in thinking about how to create a more equitable and inclusive environment. And I want you to think a little bit here. If we're successful as we return and as we take this
Mhm.
very intentional turn that you've been talking about into the company that you want Salesforce to be and to
Mhm.
become, take us out a few years. What
Mhm.
does that look and feel like if we
Mhm.
navigate this return phase successfully?
Well, I think that first off, it means Salesforce will continue to be incredibly successful financially
Mhm.
because this is a business strategy.
Right.
It's not just a quote an equality strategy or D&I strategy.
Yeah.
The fact is, we serve our customers' needs better if we surround ourselves with employees that look, feel, act,
Mhm.
experience just like our customers.
Mhm.
And same thing with everything that we do in business. So I actually see a much larger, even more profitable sales force because of the strategy.
Yep.
But also, what does it look and feel like? Like I had mentioned, we will have employees from everywhere, regardless of where our offices are located. I can hook into talent from everywhere. And I think that will be an important part, will change the face. We'll look like our communities. We'll continue to see more women in senior leadership roles.
Mhm.
We're already moving in that direction. As a matter of fact, we're leading in a lot of cases. We have a very long ways to go. Even though our pay equality, as you know, we've been measuring that for years now, and we've invested many millions of dollars to make sure that that's the case, especially when we acquire companies. So
Mm.
our pay equity will continue the way that it is. Our racial diversity, we've put out some bold goals. We will have already achieved those goals, and we'll be working to go beyond that in a way that we may or may not need a diversity and equality strategy. Who knows? Because it will such be a part of our values, the quality, that we need to pay attention to something else that we haven't
Right.
even seen today, right?
Right.
And I think what I love about it is that it's completely connected to a successful business strategy. Those companies that get it
Mm.
and understand the power of tapping into these communities, creating pathways for them. Not everyone has to have a college degree to be successful at Salesforce. Although, it's an important part of who we are. What are our pathways? We have trailblazers and trailhead. I continue to see that growing and growing because of, again, we're going to tap into communities that were never really part of our recruiting strategy before. So for me, I see a place that looks like that, feels like that. That when I walk into our building, it looks like the street I just walked off of.
Amazing. I can feel your passion for this, and there are a lot of companies, surprisingly, that haven't fully bought into this. So, my
Right?
last question is, what's your call to action to
Yeah.
your peers and to other big and influential employers who may be doubting whether that's
Yeah.
the kind of future they want to see at their company?
I think you have to look at it both ways. I always look at my own house first and then go, right? And my own
Mhm.
house is, we've already stated it. You have to embrace our vision of equality. You have to embrace it. If you don't embrace it, then you really shouldn't be at Salesforce. So I think those companies, we all need to take a good look at ourselves and say, are we doing it? And are we willing to stand up for it? Number one. Number two, I would say for companies that can't get their arms quite around it yet, I understand. Change is hard. Change is difficult. Change can be scary. But if you look at the most successful people and organizations and communities, what they do is they ran towards it. They ran
Mm.
towards the change. They embraced it, even when there wasn't a path forward. And what I would say and plead with CEOs, right, who are really maybe grappling with this change in their community and their company, is just run towards it. Reach out to those of us who are passionate about it. Reach out privately. That's fine.
Mm.
We have playbooks. We'll share them
Mm.
with anybody. We believe in the stakeholder management piece here and leadership, and so reach out to those privately and say, "Help me,"
Yep.
because we will. I think companies that don't embrace diversity inclusion, don't embrace this level of
Mm.
equality, and ultimately are doomed. And I don't want to end on an upside. A downside, what I want to say is the upside is those of us who do, I think, are going to grow at dramatic rates, be embraced by our customers, and have successful careers for millions of people.
Brent, thank you. I am inspired by your vision and by the passion and by what I know is going to be possible with you and the team at Salesforce and elsewhere. And I think you just invited everyone to give you a phone call with to ask for some guidance. So your
Got
phone's
it.
going to be ringing off the hook.
No problem. Look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brent. We are so grateful to have heard Brent's perspective. It is hard not to be energized by his passion for this work. And many employers share this passion. They understand the urgency of this moment. And as Brent said, there's still many others who haven't quite wrapped their arms around it yet. And the interesting thing is, no matter where a company is on that spectrum of engagement, they need guidance and support to enact change. Because again, as Brent said, and as we all know, change can be so hard. One of the things that we've found can make change easier is working through it with peers facing similar challenges. And it was in that spirit that JFF set out to create, with our Stronger coalition, our co created Recovery Playbook. This is a resource that offers insights into the unique challenges companies face in this moment, along with the emerging practices to help business leaders navigate a more equitable and just recovery following COVID 19 and the related crises. We co created the Recovery Playbook with over 40 leaders from the human resources, DEI function, and social impact arms of corporations. They represented 18 top employers from across 11 industries. And in fact, several people of at Salesforce, along with dozens of other corporate leaders, two of whom are about to join us, contributed to the creation of this playbook. These leaders came together in small, topic focused groups to workshop, to brainstorm as peers, and together they helped surface the promising and emerging talent practices that their companies have adopted. They've also come up with bold innovations that have yet to be put into play. So, here in this playbook, they give us their insights. And with us today, we have two people who've contributed to this and are going to be supporting our discussion around it: Gayatri Agnew from Walmart and Linda Ho from Autodesk. Gayatri, Linda, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Our pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So both of you and your companies have been part of Recover Stronger, and you've been engaged in helping us to develop our recovery playbook, which, as I mentioned, we are so excited to be launching today. And we know that this is not a silver bullet solution for the challenges that companies face, but look, we're making an effort to learn together and to put some things out there in the world. So I just want to ask you now, we are in the recovery phase. We're preparing for a return. And as we hurdle towards that, what do you all have gotten a chance to see this playbook, to contribute to this playbook? What are you hoping specifically to take forward that you've seen in the playbook or that you've put in the playbook, or even in just the experience of building this alongside your peers from other companies and other industries that, Gayatri, as you mentioned, have been going through very different experiences themselves? And Gayatri, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, Kat, it's interesting, just even like how did we get here? The process of co-creating and building this playbook under the leadership of the Recover Stronger Coalition was an incredibly collective effort. And to me, that's not always the case with major companies in America. We can't always be collective in our approach to things. Oftentimes we are in competition with one another. But I think when it came to certain practices, especially around how do we support our people and show up for our people in the right ways through this global crisis, there was more similarity than there was difference in terms of opportunity to rethink practices or to collaborate. And the format of how we actually got here, I think, was really unique. So there were teams assigned to each of the categories within the impact employment framework. And we had a number of folks represented on different teams, different working groups. And those dialogues and discussion, I think, not only resulted in the content that's in the playbook, but it also gave my colleagues an opportunity to have the space to reflect and to think about what do we do today? How might we want to shift what we do? In what ways is all of this naturally shifting around us? And in what ways do we control and can we manage and make choices about what that shift looks like? A great example being to emphasize the wellness, the role that wellness plays in a workplace, which has not always been the case, and that's been a huge theme for our company out of this time. So just the process of getting there, the process of building community together around these tough issues has felt really valuable.
Linda, how does that resonate for you? Or what is the nugget that you want to take forward from the experience or the playbook?
It absolutely resonates. I mean, the idea, the notion of community, I think is what really brought us through the pandemic. We really are all in it together. And to be able to co-create workshop ideas, whether they're existing practices that are outlined in the playbook or emerging practices that people can focus on to bring into their companies. That really brings all of the different practices and the different topics together in a very concise playbook that's actionable. So, what I really like about the playbook is it's pragmatic, but it's also futuristic and innovative. And you don't always find those combinations in one. And I so appreciate the community that gathered together to give us this rich material.
Yeah. And so, Linda, let me build off of that for just a little bit and ask you a question here. If we could, again, you've seen this playbook, you've contributed to this playbook. If you could have your greatest hits list, right? Or like a couple things that you would want to say to your colleagues, like, do this now, right? Take this action now. Is there anything in here that felt like it really popped for you? I know Gayatri mentioned wellness as an area of focus. Anything for you, Linda, that stood out?
Two areas. Really, the section on culture. So I feel like everyone knows a purpose driven organization wins together. But more important than ever before is the idea of culture being the foundation of everything that we do. During the pandemic, I think many companies stepped up and really showed how culture, the care for our employees, how it's become the foundation really of who we are as a company, but also as a community of employers can really lead us through anything, even unprecedented times like the pandemic. So definitely leaning into culture and making that the center stone and the heartbeat, if you will, of
Yeah.
a company, I think is key. And then the second is workforce planning. I believe, and there may be some small exceptions, but I believe that we are in a talent war and we're going to feel it now, if not in a couple of months. And that means we have to rethink workforce planning, we have to rethink talent acquisition, and really rethink the relationship that employers have with employees. And I think the workforce planning section is a really good kickstart to that process.
Linda, those were great reflections on this process and what you're going to take forward. I'm wondering, Gayatri, for you, what are the big juicy takeaways? What do you want to make sure your peers are thinking about and taking action on as they move through recovery?
So, I mentioned well-being, and that's such a core part to how employees and companies will be successful through this period. But I think the other big one is just the dynamic nature of the labor market, right? And so thinking about the choices and the roles that employers can play in talent development, in training, in upskilling, and in career pathing. And, I don't think there is a company, including Walmart, and we're very large, who can manage for the talent development needs and growth of every single employee. We can manage for a lot, and many folks are able to grow their careers with our company. But if what we're after as a society is a place where economic opportunity and economic mobility can be achieved, we have to be more creative in what those career pathways look like, and they will include multiple employers, right? And so I think the pandemic, there were just some acute labor market transitions that I think showcased ways in which we as employers can be more creative in managing for the needs of workers. A great example is at the height of the unemployment from the pandemic, Walmart was actually a place that received a lot of new talent. We hired over 500,000 workers during 2020, and many folks came to us on furlough from hospitality and travel industry, right, which had really just been decimated by the impacts of the pandemic. What's been interesting to see is many folks have actually been able to return back to those employers. Some have stayed with us, and we love that and are growing with us. But there's just this dynamic nature to how we as employers can support and facilitate the growth of people. And again, we hope they grow with us, but at the end of the day, what is most important to a vibrant and economically healthy society is that that growth is enabled. And I think that the
Yeah.
playbook really highlights ways that employers can lead that growth.
Yes, guys, what I love about what you just shared is the recognition that we are not alone in this work. And that is a lot of the impetus for Recover Stronger. It is why this group of 10 companies banded together to imagine a more equitable and inclusive economic recovery. It is behind all the work that we've done around this playbook, where we brought together over 40 leaders in this space, including all of you, to do this. So, we're not going to get through this alone. No one company, no one industry, no one sector. This is going to require a collective effort. So I'm thankful for both of you for being part of that effort. And I'm excited for us to really send a strong call to action to everyone who's listening today and everyone who picks up this playbook. We're out here. We've got your back. There's momentum around this, and there is a better future if we make it. Thank you. All right, everybody. We hope you leave here feeling inspired after hearing from the amazing leaders who've joined us today to talk about their experiences, their hopes for the future, and most importantly, their plans for action. And if you're looking for some guidance, a starting point, fresh ideas, we hope you'll take a look at our Recovery Playbook. It's now live on our website. And I want to close this session by reminding all of us of this critical moment. We've been through a lot, one of the toughest years imaginable, and arguably this moment is one of the most important ones when it comes to establishing who we're going to be on the other side of the crises we've faced. If you're a corporate leader, we're calling on you to step into the urgency of this moment on behalf of the well-being of your employees and our broader economy. And as we look forward to recovery and our return, we know we cannot revert back to the way things were. We have a tremendous opportunity to reimagine talent management practices in a way that emphasizes equity, that puts people at the center of business strategy, and that creates widespread economic mobility so that we can all recover stronger. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Be well.